A bombshell new report has dropped that is going to make some Democrats very uncomfortable. It's coming from inside the party. I want to explain it and talk about it and definitely get your thoughts because I think that even within my audience, this will be controversial. So there's a new study from a center left group called Welcome, 70-page report called Deciding to Win. And it finds that 70% of voters find Democrats to be out of touch. And the report claims to explain why. They talked to hundreds of thousands of voters over 6 months. And full disclosure, this is a center left group. Okay, this is a center left group. And what they have determined is that for Democrats to win, they need to abandon some of the unpopular things they've been recently talking about and move to the center. Now, again, this is a center-left group. They want Democrats to move to the center. We're going to get back to that, okay? But first, we need to talk about what's in the study. The argument from the report is Democrats have been moving to the left on cultural issues for over a decade. This includes support for reparations being studied, going from 1% to 57% among lawmakers, support for assault weapons bans going from 41% to 88%. Letting federal prisoners vote went from 4% support to 41% support. Wiping out any state abortion limits went from 2/3 support to 98% support. And the share of Americans that now believes Democrats are too liberal went from 47 to 55%. Not that significant of a change. Now, meanwhile, the perception that Republicans are too conservative went down from 47 to 44%. And so what the study says is that both on policy and also on language, the Democrats have a problem. The language about specific racial groups in Democratic Party platforms from 2012 to 2024 went up over 800%. The phrase environmental justice went up over 300%. Mentions of LGBTQ rights went up 1,000%. And meanwhile, mentions of men are down 63% in Democratic platforms. Mentions of fathers are down significantly. Mentions of responsibility are down significantly. Now, the argument that this group makes, and remember, I'm not giving my opinion yet. I'm just the messenger, okay? What the report says is that this was a strategy meant to win over non-white voters, and it has failed to do so. That you look at Democrats have been losing ground overall with a whole bunch of groups. And in fact, Democrats have lost more support from non-white voters than from white voters. In other words, the argument is Democrats have done all this stuff to appeal to non-white voters, and it hasn't even worked. Okay, what does the report recommend? The report says go back to Obama-era positioning on immigration and on crime, two issues which Kamala Harris arguably did not connect well with voters on in 2024. Do away with as much focus on the cultural stuff, focus on the economy, nominate candidates willing to vote with Republicans when it makes sense to on immigration or on crime. And the report does say Bernie and AOC are doing something right. They are focusing on economic opportunity. They want Democrats to get away from some of the language on race, abortion, and LGBTQ issues and really focus on economic justice. Bernie told Tim Dillon, we should have a secure border. Trump did better protecting the border. That's a major shift, and Bernie and AOC kind of seem to get it. Now, what's the problem? I know you're all sitting, David, wait, but hold on. Progressives aren't buying this at all. And this is where it gets really interesting. We have opposite diagnoses. The progressive wing of the Democratic Party agrees that Democrats are out of touch because they've actually moved in the wrong direction, that they've moved and are focusing too much on the middle, that they're too focused on moderate voters, that they're too focused on defending corporate interests. And someone like a progressive strategist, Waleed Shahid, is saying Democrats are out of touch, but we've tried the moderate stuff and it hasn't worked. Anat Shenker Osorio says Democrats need to move to the left, not to the middle. So you've got opposite diagnoses here, or I guess to put it a different way, we have one diagnosis, which is Democratic elected officials and candidates appear out of touch. But the center left says you got to move to the center. Whereas the progressive wing says you've tried moving to the center, and that's the problem. Both sides agree 70% of voters think Democrats are out of touch, but they have completely different solutions. Now, to me, the answer, this is going to be shocking to all of you, I don't think there is one answer. We'll get to what should happen at the presidential level, but it's important to look at, you look at the success of Mamdani in New York City. And some would say Mamdani's success in New York City proves that Democrats should just run socialists all around the country. What works in New York City is not going to work everywhere else. And so for me, the bottom line is there is a choice for Democrats here. Do you keep the current strategy or do you pick a new one? On that, pick a new one seems like the obvious answer. On the, do you move to the center and alienate progressives, or do you move to the left and alienate the center-left base of the Democratic Party? I think it's a false choice. I think you need to run the candidates that make sense in the districts and in the states where those candidates would be appropriate. But the key for the general election is going to be, I think the exit polling shows it, progressive, but showing that progressives do care about crime and do care about immigration. Harris, in a sense, got both sides of it wrong. She presented as a real moderate, but at the same time turned off a lot of moderates by seeming to dismiss concerns about the border and about crime. It was the worst of both worlds. Now, despite all of that, she still almost won. What seems to me to be more logical is to focus on how the center approach hasn't won elections for Democrats at key times. And so actually being on the left makes sense, but showing that being on the left doesn't turn you into this fringe of, I don't want to be pejorative, but I think we understand each other if I say the Democratic Party shouldn't be seen as being overly focused on some of these edge cultural issues that are popular online. Let me kind of put it that way. And so what we need to do is show that being progressive and bold does address crime. It does address immigration, but it addresses it in a way that both respects people's dignity and takes seriously the economic concerns of the average person. That's where I would be. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think it's as simple as move left or right? Or do you think that it actually needs to be about a progressivism that shows it cares about these issues that the center left cares about?